In today's video, we are going to add simple utility widget to our space station editor in order to be able to select anything on the left side, any item, and assign this to all selected actors on our scene. It's going to be super simple and straightforward, showing how powerful is development tools in Unreal Engine 4. You will also get a sneak peek of development process for our upcoming game. Hey everyone, I'm Tefel, and this is the first time when I can show you our project. So today we are going to add some utilities to our project to build the space station. It will be editor inside the Unreal Engine editor for building a space station, because as you may see, I'm already walking on the floor. And there is already for the player existing system where you can simply select, unselect things, you can remove, you can build new floors, etc. And it's a similar system to Fortnite for walls, where you just change orientation of your player, you just look into different direction. You can even build horizontal walls, so you can make nice angles. And obviously you can build some blocks, and you can even go higher and higher. So everything works perfectly fine for first-person camera. But what I would love to achieve today is providing extra utilities way of designing your own space station in editor. As you can see, or maybe not see yet, because it's just a bunch of stuff, I already started making this space station editor. So as you can see, this is a separate actor, each one of them, where I can specify a range, so number of elements in the grid to spawn. So it can be 0, 0, and it's going to be 1 element. And if it's 2 by 2, it's grid with 9 elements. Simple like that. Then I can obviously take one element and just drag and drop, right? I can remove, I can change different item. So I can change this to waste bin. Pretty straightforward, easy to use. You can just define whole your space station like this. And what are we using to make everything clean is streaming level. So every space station is going to be kept in the separate level, and this way we won't be there won't be need of going to the game each time we want to modify something. So loading the game, changing I don't know, walls, floors, and then saving the game and exiting to the editor. But here we can just simply select the space station we want, and we can unselect everything else and saying, this ship is looking nice, but I would love to just maybe make more of this, or maybe this floor a little bit wider, and etc, etc. And we have like preview of everything in just one place. So I think streaming level will be the best candidate. So yeah. So in the end, it's going to look more like this when we define all the angles, because I wouldn't like player to have just a raw state like with a floor or something, but everything being defined, like predefined, right? So every space station is going to be defined. And in Unreal Engine 4, there are two common ways of defining data. So we are using a bunch of data tables with rows, and they are the best for defining much amount of data, like for unlocks. We have aspect unlocks. Yeah, this is a common issue, and as you can see here, and maybe not, we have over 180 elements to unlock. So in the way where you have the unlock tree, technology tree, it's pretty obvious that we cannot just create assets for them. And in the data table, we can also import this from CSV files, so we can keep it clean and easy to do, right? But in case of items on the grid, I think the smartest way is just creating them as primary data assets. Moreover, because in the engine there is something like asset manager, which is simply loading all the assets you request. So in our asset manager, we are defining all the asset types. So there is a primary asset type for each of them. We have floors, blocks, devices, etc., etc. In your default game here, you can just specify a path for each of them. So there is primary asset type to scan. And this way, asset manager knows from which direction should try to load all the assets. And whenever asset is being loaded, it's also registering it somewhere. So for instance, there is a plant, so it's going to register it in our asset manager as plants, so or data provider as plants. So everything is kept clean. We are not using T-arrays for adding new elements, because everything is happening automatically. And in this case, I think data assets are the best. So what I'm trying to achieve now, and we are just going to do it together, is just creating a utility widget, because I think changing the block item here is really cumbersome, because the list is long and you don't have a preview of the item, and finding something is really hard to do. So I wish to be exactly the same like we have in the game, where you simply press construction script screen and select from the category. You can just drag and drop and you can modify, right? So you can have all the items listed somewhere. And this is going to be utility widget on the left side of the screen next to the place actors. And it's going to be located here with all the elements. When I just simply select all the actors, I want to change the type and simply press like empty actor. But this is going to be my item type, right? So I'm going to go to blocks category, just select one item which I want, and like this, and it's going to swap. So this is planned for today, and I'm going to do it just right now. Okay, so let's start from adding utility widget to our project. And everything what I have to do now is just editor utilities and adding utility widget. I'm going to name it U like utility, WBP like widget blueprint, and space station items selection. And I can just jump into this straight. And what we actually need in this widget is just maybe just vertical box, which I can replace with the canvas. And inside my vertical box there will be just a text box, which will be just normal text. So it will be selection block, and under is going to be grid. You need to form grid panel. So here I'm going to put all my elements, and really important, it needs to be like filling the space, I think, or it can be auto. Okay, so then we need the slot itself. So it's going to be just simple button with an image inside, nothing fancy. So I'm going to make just user interface widget, which will be just WBP like widget blueprint space station grid item. And inside the grid item, what I'm going to do is just making a button, replacing with a child, and putting image inside. So it's going to be showing what I have inside. So yeah, this image will be size 128 by 128 because I think that's going to be a correct size, maybe something like that. And padding, I can just leave padding like how it is, and when you set the desired size, it's going to show you the final look of that widget. So I'm just going to compile it, and here I'm going to maybe select something like drone, maybe this one, just default one, and adding this drone widget to because there is a window one, so let's just drag it here, and that should be fine. You can even copy this multiple times. So this is how it's going to look like. So yeah, this has to be aligned to the left. And yeah, that's basically fine. What I have to do next is just making this button widget clickable and filling this uniform grid panel based on all our block items in the project. So how can I grab all the block items from the project? Okay, so what we have to do now is just grabbing all the items from specific type. So I'm going to grab all the block items using Asset Manager. So there is already functionality for this. So I'm using event construct, grabbing my panel, clearing all children. This is how I start. And then I can get a primary list. And yeah, and I'm providing type I want to take all the assets. So I can take all the block items, like I mentioned before, and I can, for each of them, I can simply load them, asynchronously loading all the primary assets. And to make sure that all assets are loaded, and I can simply create all the slots, which are actually buttons. I will count how many assets are like being loaded. So I'm just creating the variable, which will be loaded count, and yeah, it's going to be 0 by default. So I'm going just to increase the number of for every completion number of elements. And obviously, if this is higher or equal, obviously it's going to be equal, like length of my array, then it has to call another event, right? So it's going to be a custom event, which we can call it assets loaded, right? So I can just simply call here assets loaded, simple like this, and I can copy this once again, so getting the same all types of assets once again, but they are already loaded, so I can simply from each item get object from primary asset ID. So now I can cast this to my type, and I know it's a block item. And from the block item, I can just initialize my widget. So I can just create the widget which I want, and it was a grid. How was it? Let's check it. So that was a space station grid item. So it's this one. And obviously I need to initialize this, so I'm going to copy this block item to my slot, and I need to promote this. So it was just simple like this. So it's my block item, which I'm going to initialize. So I'm making this public, obviously, and expose on spawn. This is the simple way of exposing this to construction. And now you're seeing that if I compile here and refresh this node, I'm going to have my block item here. So I can just simply link it. And the remaining thing is just adding this to our grid. So I'm grabbing my grid items and adding a child to uniform grid, and it's going to give me this nice row and column, because otherwise I would have to cast this to a specific type. And I can calculate this by index, and I can specify how many columns and rows I'm going to have. So in this case, I'm just going to promote this to another integer, which is just going to be columns. And for the column, I'm going to specify how many. It's going to be, let's say, 6. Okay, compile. So which one is going to be my row? I think that's going to be my yeah, so this is going to be my row, this is going to be my column, if I'm not mistaken, and then adding the content. And this is everything what I need from here. Let's check if it's working, if it's showing all the items. So I'm running editor utility widget, and yeah, something went wrong. Obviously, what we are seeing, they are not scaled properly. First of all, I need to set from the block item, grabbing my icon and setting it for the image. So that's one thing I have to do, that's for sure. So I'm grabbing my image, setting brush from texture, simple like that. And now if I compile and I run the screen once again, it should be at least having all the items, because maybe I'm stretching this to fill all the space. So let's put this to the left side. Okay, let's put this into the canvas. So so I think that's going to work. If I wrap this with a canvas, and in the canvas I'm just going to set size to content. Yeah, and this is to the left, this is to the left, and it's auto. It's not, and to the left top, it's going to work perfectly fine. So let's run this once again. Yeah, every item is here. It's a little bit big, so I'm going to scale it down. So 128, it wasn't a good idea. So yeah, let's put 64 by 64. Let's check it now. Once again, when I run this construct script, yeah, all the items are here. So now I should be able to click them. Okay, so it's fine. So remaining thing is just making a dispatcher, which is going to return item which was pressed. And from this item is going to update selected elements, right, with the new block type. So when I select this, and this, and I want to replace to, let's say, camera or waste bin, I will just do this simple like that, and it's going to work. So yeah, let's do one remaining thing. And so let's make this button to be clickable. Let's make a dispatcher, click, simple like that. In the dispatcher there will be input, which is going to be a block item, because I want to return the item which was pressed. And yeah, and it's going to be block item. And I can just call it with my item which was assigned to this slot, right? Simple like this. This is my slot, this is my widget. And yeah, not too much logic, it took maybe 5 minutes, and now we have fully functional widget. So now when I press something, if I obviously take my slot and do something like assign my click to the event, let's make this click, I will have which item was pressed if I print this on the screen. So whenever I press something, I will have this. So let's rerun this once again. When I press it, yeah, it's showing you which item was pressed. So it's a camera, which is electronic panel, it's a vent, it's a waste bin, etc., etc. Yeah, stairs 2, stairs 1. So everything seems working fine, and what we have to do is just getting all selected actors on our scene. So it's going to grab all actors from the scene. Obviously, get selected actors. So there are get selected level actors and get selected actors. Okay, I think it's exactly the same, but I can be mistaken. Anyway, so I'm grabbing all selected actors, casting them to specific time, which is SSE block. And yeah, and I need to set the property which I want to change, which in the end is a block item. So set block item, and that should be everything, apart from rerunning construction script. So you will see that all the properties are going to be modified whenever I press. So let's rerun this just to make sure everything is updated. And when I press something, you see camera was changed, but it's not updating until I do something like moving this. So this is what for rerun construction is. So I had to expose this to blueprints because by default there are a lot of functionality from the actor which are not exposed. So I'm going to show you now that I'm going to use on this actor just rerun construction, and I'm going to show you this method how it's exposed. So yeah, let's check if this rerun construction is working. So whenever I press something, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, so I can test and I can easily modify. So I can just have this all selected, and I can just compare. Maybe this one looks better. Nah, maybe not. Maybe this floor, maybe this floor, maybe this wall. So I can simply like select from the grid, which I think is much nicer way of modifying assets instead of every time selecting from the list, looking for something, especially if it's going to be used more often, right, by game designers and also me. And yeah, let's check expose method, which I mentioned before. So we have a bunch of blueprint function libraries, but for utility editor functions, we have something like utility blueprint function library. So I created rerun construction, which is just taking an actor and is rerunning construction scripts in the end. So you will see that there are a lot of methods on the actor itself which are not exposed, but they are virtual. You can just override in the code, but it's also useful to sometimes expose something to blueprint if needed, right? So you are creating just U function which runs this. And yeah, that's basically everything for this tutorial. This is what I implemented, seems working perfectly fine. So I'm going to extend this now for floors, diagonal walls, and making this editor space station editor complete, right? Okay, so that was everything what I prepared for you guys for today. I'm going to expand this dockable window a little bit more, adding more sections, more items, all type of items we have, like floors, walls, etc., etc. So if you like our project and you want to see this project coming to the end and not missing any update from development process, please don't forget to subscribe. And from my side, I can assure that I have a lot of knowledge to share, at least a little bit, after working for so many years in both Munich and London. So I was recently working for Splash Damage, well known from Halo or Gears. So yeah, that would be everything for now. Please leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. And as always, see you next time.